everybody. Welcome to another episode of Talking Animation. And the show we like to talk about an animated film that's usually a little less well known. And today is going to be fun. We are talking about the very strange film 2018's Smallfoot. And I'm excited to dive into it. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to talking with you about this is a very interesting movie.
Yeah, Zendaya is Michi.
That's right. And LeBron James.
Yeah.
What in the world?
There are so many parts about this movie that are just totally bonkers and bizarre. But I actually bumped up my score a little bit on this watch.
I did too.
I really did kind of admire it for the swings that it takes and the quality of the animation and what it's trying to say. And yeah, it's one of those movie doppelganger, things where that same year everybody was thinking about Yetis for some bizarre reason. So strange. Because there was this, there was Son of Bigfoot, there was Missing Link, and another one that I can't think of. And anyway, it was everybody had Yetis on their minds.
Yetti fever.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, and you're in the animation community.
Yeah. And this was probably one of the more successful ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too, just as you said, I bumped up my score. I liked it more this viewing. I think this is probably my second time I saw it. I saw it in the theater in 2018. And
yeah, I don't think it 100% pulls off all that it's trying to do, because it just bites off more than it can accomplish.
It's ambitious. Yeah.
But it was still pretty entertaining. And it's not a movie that I wrote a post about Pixar where I talked about how I feel like they are coming up with concepts, but they're not coming up with stories that are engaging, that are like, to me, the narratives are suffering, where they used to be so solid with the brain trust. And I just feel like they're kind of, a friend of mine on YouTube was really brilliant in talking about Elemental, brought up the whole scene in Elf where they're pitching stories and the guy keeps going back to the tomatoes. There's like a sad tomato.
Yeah.
And and I do feel he was using that as an example, that they're pitching kind of these concepts of these stories, like it's the same story that we've heard, but this time it's a tomato, this time it's a as opposed to like a real narrative with character arcs and growth and everything. And this one, I do think there's a lot of concepts here and it is messy, but I do also think that they tell a pretty compelling story that like 90% works.
For me, Rachel, I looked at the Wikipedia page, of course, the font of all truth. But there was a really good quote that I didn't know when I saw this movie in 2018. And also, the world's been kind of crazy. That the director, Carrie Kirkpatrick, was talking about how truth was under attack, and I think truth is still under attack. Certainly phrases like alternative facts were being thrown around,
right? False, fake news.
So it became an age of misinformation fueled by agendas that are often fueled by fear, and like, I want this result, and so I am skewing the truth. That is just in the zeitgeist, and that really helped, I think, with my appreciation of this in this watch, because I think that's what they were really trying to explore.
And this, it really goes back to Plato, the analogy of the cave, the parable of the cave, with the philosopher kings that are putting the shadows out for the people, and they aren't really actually out of the cave. They're not out of, it's the same thing you see like in Truman Show, that he's getting the shadows of what the director wants him to think and feel, not the actual reality. And so that's something that we've been talking about for forever. And it's an interesting thing, and they really find a way to give it a modern context here.
Yeah, I thought it really worked.
Yeah,
I don't know if kids are gonna necessarily appreciate it, but then I think this film was kind of made for a broader audience.
Yeah, it's true, because I mean, all of the characters are all older. Even the Yetis are all. There's no child characters, which is interesting. The little summary, it's high up on a mountain peak surrounded by clouds. A secret Yeti society lives in peace and harmony. One day, a Yeti witnesses an airplane crash. Inside lies SMALLFOOT, a legendary creature that will rock the society to its core. So yeah, so overall, you enjoyed the film, this watch around.
I really did. And I just, as you stated so well at the beginning, the animation I think is very good. And some of the voices were really random, but they didn't bug me as much this time. I think I was kind of like thought LeBron James was such stunt casting and stuff like that. But anyway, it worked. It really worked for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was really interesting to watch this movie and be like, oh, wow, that was an interesting choice. That was a bold decision. Yeah. That was creative. I mean, the last thing that this movie is boring.
Right.
You just watch it here.
It's true. The pacing is just kind of nonstop. And then with these really kind of almost dual storylines, the Yetti Society trying to, lying to protect itself. And then this very ambitious reality show, TV producer dude or TV host.
I did give it a fresh review on Rotten Tomatoes. I have my original pull quote was, "It's sort of weird, but it was creative," which I think is accurate. Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics Panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. So yeah, basically they create this whole lore to keep the Yetis afraid and to keep them there in the village. And there's this whole sort of setup where they have to ring the dong, the symbol, every morning to keep the mammoths moving that are holding up the village. And there's the fixture underneath is all creating the clouds, which then creates this separation. It's it sounds a weird comparison, but it's almost kind of like Wakanda in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. They're hiding themselves.
Yeah, they're hiding. They're excluding themselves. Because they're protecting the vibranium. And it's kind of the same idea here. And the whole conflict of Black Panther and why it's such an excellent film is you have Killmonger coming and saying that hiding from the world and not helping the needy and the other nations that need your help, that's shameful, where you have T'Challa siding more with his father, saying that that it needs to be protected, and so it's an interesting debate, and it's kind of similar to what's going on here, and of course there's a lot of fear, and I the whole thing of the idea of protecting people as a way to manipulate and control. I mean, that's something you still see all the time. I mean, women that are forced into, veiling and things like that when it's not their choice because they want to protect the women, things like that. You see stuff like that still to this day.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the comparisons to governments and religions and all the things I think are very prevalent. So I think in a way they were walking a bit of a tightrope, the storytellers, but I thought they executed it in a I thought it worked.
Yeah, and I also like that they have the character come to their realization. Migo, first he buys into it all, and then he starts to question more, and then the way that he's kind of manipulated and controlled and grows and changes as a character, like, I think felt very authentic.
Why do too? Because they were giving him these experiences.
Yeah.
That he had to deal with.
Yeah. He's not like a perfect paragon of virtue character. He doesn't always make all the right choices. And
right.
It's endearing, and it makes the message, I think, in the end more powerful.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the voice cast is bizarre.
It's so weird.
I mean, the only one that I really thought was a miss, I think Common was very flat in his line delivery as the Stonekeeper. Is basically kind of the villain, the head of the people. I just thought he was just very flat to me.
It was it was weird, and that almost seemed like stunt casting too. That they just wanted to bring in someone kind of cool, I agree. It seemed a little off. LeBron James, every one of his lines were, I didn't necessarily cringe, but just like, wow, that's weird.
I mean, he doesn't have that many lines, but it was definitely stunt casting.
Danny DeVito, I liked.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. And there was that one dude who sounded so much like Charlie. Now having a brain cramp, but anyway.
Yeah.
He's not Charlie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From the Philadelphia show. I'm sorry. And he was in Monsters University.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Charlie Day.
Charlie Day.
Yeah. No, I got it. James Corden, he's not everyone's favorite. He did so many animated films. I'm glad that he kind of took a break, but he's perfectly fine in this.
I thought it was fine. Yeah, I thought it was just fine.
Yeah. I mean, but because right around the same time he did the Emoji Movie, and he did this, and he did there was just so many. It seemed like almost every animated film had Peter Rabbits, and so it's probably good that he took a little break. I think that Keegan-Michael Key could also take a little break. He's not in this, but he is in
everything
so many
else.
films.
Yeah.
True. You don't want to become oversaturated.
Zendaya was good in this, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, so
was Channing Tatum, which kind of do you think did Channing Tatum did his own singing in it?
It doesn't have. I'm looking.
There's not another.
See.
I didn't see a singing credit.
Yeah, it doesn't have anybody.
I think it was him, and I thought he pulled it off.
Yeah, and so did Zendaya.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could have probably done without the singing in this movie. You know, I love a musical, of course, but
Well, that's what I wanted to get
the
your
movie's
take
so
on.
messy that I think that taking out a couple things like probably would have made it a little better. And the songs, especially the rap, I definitely think you could have gotten rid of the rap.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because I was wondering if you thought the music, kind of added or subtracted to the film. I, I didn't hate it, but it almost didn't feel like it was, I don't know, authentic or something, or it just seemed like kind of out of place
yeah.
with the story. It made it a little more, I guess, kind of fun, maybe a little more kid friendly.
Mhm.
But
I didn't realize that Carrie Kirkpatrick, that he is one of the co-writers with Wayne Kirkpatrick of Something Rotten, which
yeah,
is I absolutely love
yeah,
Something
Something
Rotten.
Rotten is so great.
It's so funny.
Yeah, that's
I
such a terrific show.
I just saw it in Midvale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I reviewed it for UTBA, and I saw it at Pioneer Theater Company as well.
Did you
And
see it on Broadway? I saw it on Broadway. I
no,
saw it on Broadway and just loved it.
but I did see it at Pioneer Theater Company.
Wonderful.
And
Yeah.
their equity, so both times I absolutely loved it. Hilarious. The Shakespeare, oh my gosh,
It's such a clever show. And the
it's
and
so
the
funny.
songs are so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's this and so yeah, and so that was pretty cool. That Carrie Kirkpatrick
yeah,
was involved, and he's a talent for sure.
yeah. Well, and he has a very eclectic resume as far as films. That he's, I mean, mostly animated, but he has Chicken Run that he was a writer on, Over the Hedge writer.
Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah, Rescuers Down Under, James the Giant Peach. That's a lot of different kinds of stories, and most of those, except for Smurfs 2, most of those are like at least marginally successful. Um, like even Over the Hedge, like I think Over the Hedge is really solid the first 30 minutes, and then it kind of loses steam. But that first half hour or so, that's really commenting on consumerism and like junk food and things like that. That's,
Yeah.
I think, really pretty good. And then it just becomes more basic after that. But he has a pretty good little resume,
Yeah. I
especially with
agree.
Something Rotten.
Oh, Something Rotten is
It's
fantastic.
yeah, just trust us, you guys. If it's playing anywhere near you,
Go see that show.
go.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yep.
And it's just so random that right at the same time that we would have gotten all of these Yetti movies. I
I know.
mean,
It's like, go figure. And I wonder if they kind of cannibalized themselves, but
yeah,
I mean, this wasn't a bomb. Smallfoot, well, I don't think it was a bomb, but it wasn't just humongous hit if I remember correctly.
yeah, because they had the other one was the DreamWorks Abominable.
Oh, Abominable.
Yeah, which I liked too. So
that's cute. Abominable was cute. Yeah.
I probably my least favorite of those four, because Son of Bigfoot I actually is like a hidden gem for me. I found it because I thought that it looked terrible just from the posters and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, and that's where I first connected with Cal Brunker. I was telling you about him.
Yeah.
Because he directed that, and I like reached out to him because I was like, I loved this movie. I thought it was great, and I reviewed it on my on for family movie night, and it is randomly one of the most popular videos I've ever done.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Let's see where it's at currently. It has 10,273 views.
Go Rage.
Which is like so random. I know for some channels that's not that many, but for me that's a lot, and especially for just this random obscure animated film, Son of Bigfoot.
See, and I never saw it. I mean, to
Yeah.
me, it just looked ew,
Yeah.
but that's just me being judgy and not loving a lot of,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why
kind
it
of
was
this independent animation.
that's why it was so exciting when I found it, because it looked terrible. And then for it to actually be like pretty clever and heartwarming and good animation and good music. And so it was very exciting, because when you can have that moment as a critic and you can introduce people to something,
That was wonderful.
it's like the best, because most of the time you can feel like a little bit of a negative Nancy of being like, oh, I don't really think that was that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you can have that, whether, or I just had a fairly recently on Hallmarkies, where there's this little movie called Mixed Baggage that I absolutely loved. And to be able to, I had the writer and the three of the actors on, and that was
Cool.
just so much fun, and to tell them
Fun.
how much I loved what they made. And so I'm excited. I want to have Cal on one of these days. We're working on it, because I would just think he did a great job. But that's that movie. But this is Smallfoot, which they also did a really good job. And I love the animation, and it's got to be really tough to animate the Yetis with all of that fur, because fur is like the hardest thing to do in CG animation. But not only that, have them be white on white.
Which I thought they did really effectively. I thought the animation really looked great. And I wonder what I was thinking in 2018, because maybe I was just frustrated by the overly crowded story. That's probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And again, maybe questioning the music. You're like, why is this a musical? But I don't know, on the small screen, and it is, it had just a really lovely print, that I watched. I thought it looked great.
Yeah. And it gets really close sometimes to being, is it too heavy-handed? Is this going to be too, it's a very tricky thing, and I could see why it doesn't work for everybody, but I think they just pull it off. And they have this plane crash. He sees the Smallfoot, and then everybody panics. And and I also thought it was interesting to immediately think of the children, protect the children. And you see that many times even today with something like the other day at Ziegfeld Theater in Ogden. These people were getting all up in arms about the fact that they were doing Kinky Boots and advertised a student price, and it was for any student. Like, it's not necessarily just for like children, but like it's a PG-13 show. And they were very careful in all the advertising to say, like, this is, to have the content warnings, to have, even before the show started, they had someone come up, like they went above and beyond to make sure everyone knew that this had PG-13 like level themes. But so to bully them on their social media and say they're like, it's like, if you don't want to go see it, then don't see it. It's not like, I don't know. It's just so ridiculous when people do stuff like that to me.
Well, and hello, college age kids are students.
Yeah. And high school.
and could probably handle it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Frustrating.
And if you don't want to see it, don't see it. There's no reason to like bully them on social media. But people, do it. Think of the children. It makes me think of Helen Lovejoy on The Simpsons. That's what she's always saying. Won't anybody think of the children?
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first-rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts, or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
He says that that Smallfoot didn't seem all that scary to him, and they all accuse him of lying. And he says it was there right in front of me. And then the stone master says, are you saying the stone is wrong? And it says, if it goes against the stone, it can't be true. And then he says, if I say I didn't see it, then I'd be lying. So I am saying the stone is wrong. And that's when he gets kicked out, because you cannot go against the stones, which, is very scary. You think about, cults and things like that, how they're able to control.
Such a supreme cult with kind of some good intentions, but spooky.
Yeah. And it was interesting too that they made the stone master Michi's father. So she had to have some pretty big guts in the end to go against her father.
Yeah. To form that SES society.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right? Smallfoot Evidentiary Society.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it says, questions lead to knowledge, and knowledge is power. Which I thought was a really powerful aspect of the film, message of the film.
Me too. I mean, I think that's, again, as I said earlier, that's what really carried it on for me, is I thought that plot line was really good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that when they say that the toilet paper is the scroll of infinite wisdom or invisible wisdom. That was funny.
And then they find out, oh wait, maybe not.
And they talk about, what about if there's this invisible force pulling us downward? Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about the movie is that, so there was this comedian named Gabriel Gundaker who put out this video. I don't know if it was TikTok then or YouTube, but he put out a video about singing the song Zendaya is Michi. And it became this like whole phenomenon.
It was this meme,
the movie,
right?
It became this whole meme.
Yeah.
But it was because of this video that he did, called Zendaya's Michi, where he's like,
do you remember that video?
Yeah, I found it. I was looking it up on Twitter. I don't know if that's where he posted it originally, but yeah, he comes across this poster and it says Zendaya is Michi. And he starts singing this whole song, and it became this thing. Zendaya is Michi. And so then we have Percy Patterson. He is this. It's Percy Patterson's wildlife, and he starts out as this real nature guy, and he starts becoming more and more of a sensationalist as he goes, because he doesn't want to get canceled, is afraid, wants things to go viral. And I do think another thing, they could have definitely had less Percy's story. I think it's less interesting. And I just, especially the Pressure song, I think that for sure should have been cut. It just feels very weird to have this cover.
That cover of Under Pressure. Yeah.
Strange. And it's like, it just makes his character kind of confusing. Is he the villain? Are we supposed to feel for him? Are we supposed to be concerned about him? He seems like a bad guy. He's lying to Brenda and the other people. He's lying to the people online. Like, what are we? And I guess his character does kind of come around, but I just don't think he was that well written of character.
Yeah, he's kind of a one note. I thought that that whole Under Pressure thing, I liked the animation, but it felt like it was something that James Corden would have done on his TV show, would have done when he was hosting the Late Late Show. You know what I mean? Just because that's just kind of a classic James Corden thing to.
Yeah, I mean, he says, I will do one thing without integrity, meaning faking the Yetti, and then I will bathe in integrity all the time. And then he said, nobody is watching my show. You want to save a species on the verge of extinction? Save me.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a content creator, I can recognize that sense of sort of like helplessness that so much of it is really out of your control, that you can make like really good content and try your best to, you know, advertise it and things, but you've got the stupid algorithm that can be so frustrating and promote the absolute wrong content. And I've seen it many times. People start out their channel with really, you know, interesting, helpful, good content, and after a couple of years they're making a million Brie Larson videos and, you know, things like that, and you're just, it's such a bummer. But the algorithm really it tempts you to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know, they painted him, you know, he's desperate, he's broke, you know, now, and kind of willing to do anything to earn a buck and to kind of resurrect his you know, career or his show. I really liked that the direction that they went with him is he actually did decide to have integrity. And what he did, he took a big one for the team, you know, at the end.
I also, it's just like a little thing, but I also love the fact that they kept them having different languages.
Oh, I did too.
Because that, first of all, it wouldn't have made any sense if why would the Yetti, especially when they're being controlled like this, they would not know English. That would make no sense.
Yeah.
And it just added a layer that I thought was interesting and effective, as far as just the movie's talking a lot about communication and the, you know, them both thinking that that each other is a monster. And that was certainly easier to believe in the fact that neither can understand each other.
Yeah.
That was good.
I like that too.
And so first Percy thinks that Migo is Brenda dressed up, and
yeah, because they're ready. They've got this fake Yetti suit
that
they're gonna bust out.
The one thing with Percy that is impossible to believe in this movie is that his phone evidently has an eternal battery, because he's able, not only that, but he is able to get bars in like a cave in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of the Himalayas. He's got full connectivity.
He's able to send a YouTube video.
That's so funny. I know. I'm with you.
I'm on his provider, I'll tell you that.
Seriously. And his phone.
Yeah. But they stumble upon the bears and they're hibernating. And I did think it was a funny line. He says, all I get is 6 months of mommy time and you're ruining it. That was a good line.
The bear was pretty funny, I guess. So Patricia Heaton voiced the bear. And then they had a different voice for the UK release.
Oh, they did.
That's what it says. You know, of course, on Wikipedia, the font of all knowledge, but but yeah, it was funny. The bear interaction was funny, and I like that they use that as a way to try to help the character, to help Migo and Percy gain some trust with each other. That Percy could see that Migo saved him from getting killed by the bear, by the ticked off mama bear. Yeah, that was a good scene. I've always been jealous of animals that can hibernate. Wouldn't that be the best? Oh my
I would
goodness.
love that. If I could just like, even just for like a day, because I struggle so much with sleeping. Just to like, when I get like a truly great sleep, like 8 hours plus, it almost never happes. But when it does happen, it's like, oh, that's the best day of my life.
I hear you. Sleep's a challenge for me too, and oh my goodness, so great.
And I like it. Also, you just walk into my cave and don't even wipe your feet. That was funny. They got some of the funniest lines, the bears, I think, which was needed because it's a pretty solemn movie. It is pretty serious.
Yeah, really at its core, it's serious. Yeah, it's serious.
Yeah.
And they're, as we talked about, they're tackling some big issues. And so any little comic relief is welcome. And it's also, I think, I'm with you. There's some good comic relief, and there's kind of, I think, quite a bit of slapstick kind of humor, which again, I don't fault it for. Just a lot of falling down and falling off stuff or whatever, or just with the nature of them being on a mountain and whatnot and all the snow.
Yeah. And we have Percy's first sort of road to redemption when he goes back and helps Migo from the trap.
Yeah.
He's like, this is the wrong time to grow a conscience. And then we have him giving the speech on the Smallfoot. And I liked the one. I said, I'm losing interest. Get to the point.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
But if it is Smallfoot, does that mean the stones are wrong? And they have all these questions. And this is the stone master. He says, everything I do is to protect the village. I need you to listen. You are. And this is, you are their leader. And I wish it was you answering their questions. And then he says, Migo says that, what if I'm not the gong ringer? It requires a strong backbone to lead and to lie to the people. And this is where you really are seeing the Plato's the philosopher king idea is in the stone master, is these lies, and that you're like the noble lie, which goes all the way back to Plato, which is interesting. And he sings the song The Moment of Truth. It's the rap.
The rap song, the common rap.
Yeah. There's to protect the people from human savages, he had to lie. And protect the lies, and you protect the village. And you'd be surprised with what they will believe. He says, how can I lie? They've seen him. And he says, well, you'd be surprised with what they can believe. And you do have this scene with Michi and Percy bonding over animals, because again, they speak different languages, but when they have the animals hieroglyphics, kind of thing, they're able to bond. And and then he says, lately I only started to care about how many other people were watching. What's the Yetti word for pathetic? And then he also gets Michi hooked on Candy Crush. Again, he has the most amazing phone.
I was gonna say, this phone is something else. I did like how I guess that's one thing that I thought made it feel definitely of the time that they integrated some fun stuff with social media, because I still think a lot of that still holds true, 5 years later.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It's just like, this is really unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar in a lot of ways to Ralph Breaks the Internet as far as themes and about friendship and particularly social media and modern communication, all those things. You get a lot of those same themes in here, which I guess rings true because I like both those movies.
Yeah.
And so then it's an interesting scene where this says to Michi, says, haven't you been lying to your dad all this time? Like, even the secret society and everything, your dad is protecting you from the Smallfoot. They are monsters. This is why I lied. So he buys this idea of the noble lie, which is interesting. And he does it because, again, more protection, used to manipulate and control, he does it. Oh, he's going to protect Percy by this. And so then Percy tranquilizes Migo. He shot me to save me. And then this is when you get the full redemption of Percy, because he'd uploaded this video of the Yetti in the cave, and everything had gone viral. And so then he dresses up in the suit and pretends that it was him to protect the people.
Which I thought was I really like that, just because you don't always get a character that's gonna be somewhat noble.
Yeah.
And do a good thing like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and not only did he do a good thing, but he literally made himself look bad.
Oh, it trashed his career. Whatever it was gonna. Yeah, exactly.
So it was a true demonstration of integrity, and Brenda sees that,
and self-sacrifice.
And then we have the ending scene with the when they says we think they are monsters and they think we are, and they both are standing, they're both lined up next to each other.
Yeah.
And it was really quite moving, this ending scene.
I thought so too, Rachel, because I honestly, I couldn't remember exactly how this went down. I mean, I knew that it had a satisfying ending, but I can't remember. And yeah, it was really moving.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved how the Yetis in particular, they didn't have any weapons.
Mm-hmm.
They just were themselves, and they all came. It was everybody, and that just really worked for me, because I keep wondering, and who knows, and don't want to get political and I don't want to get weird, but I just don't know how in the world is our society ever going to come together. I don't think we ever.
Yeah, I don't know,
but
it's
but definitely one particular group or whatever, on either side is not going to come down like the way that the Yetis did. Unfortunately,
yeah. They stop making the fog, and so they open the village to the world, and at first they say, who's going to side with the Yetis, and then so Percy goes over to their side, and then Brenda does, and yeah, it really is lovely and moving, and it's hard. We just have become so divided, so polarized, that it does feel kind of hopeless.
Yeah.
But
I think too, I'm glad you brought up Black Panther, because I think that also in its own way, does the same thing, where they decided, they're going to open up Wakanda, and they're going to do an outreach, and share knowledge, and try to make the world a better place because of it. And I think that's what they really successfully did.
Yeah, it's one of the best Marvel movies.
Yeah,
one of the best MCU movies, in my opinion.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the best too, if not the best.
Yeah. And so this ended up being a pleasant surprise. I don't even know why I randomly thought about it, but it just came to me.
I'm glad you did, and thank you for including me. You always pick such cool movies, to send my way, and I'm always so grateful. I really enjoyed this, and I initially gave it a 2.5 out of 5 star, and I bumped it up to 3.5.
Same. I did the same thing.
Did you? Okay.
I did on
really
I did
on
give it a
Letterboxd.
fresh, but I had it at 2.5 out of 5, and I bumped it up. So I did ask on Twitter what people thought about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I got a bunch of responses. Kevin and I critic, I liked it. Good songs, likable characters, encouraging kids to think outside the box. A good 3-star film. I think he means 3. I think he does 3 out of 4, if I'm not mistaken. 22 Tiger Dude, Tony, he says, I think it's a very cute movie. Puts a smile on my face whenever I rewatch it. Sam Waters says, highly underrated, quite possibly my favorite, second favorite film from WAG films. First being the Lego Movie, of course. Josh Rayner says, it's decent, though. Of the 3 Yetti Sasquatch animated movies that came out around that time, it's on the bottom. That's his feeling. Cameron Ward says, really rock solid and a way more mature film than what the marketing promised. I'd agree with that. Bree says, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. It was very enjoyable. Crooked Table says it's underrated. Jordan Woodson says, I liked it, but not going to lie, I forgot it existed before reading this tweet.
Yep.
Mike K says, I really liked it. The soundtrack is criminally underrated, especially the track Let It Lie by Common. Berg on a Wire says, I really liked Smallfoot. I always said that WB Animation started to have a good thing going with Storks and Smallfoot before they panicked and started doing IP garbage like Scoob and Space Jam: A New Legacy. A couple more. Adam Clay says, it's cute. Follow me on Threads, says it's all right, has a great message about being open-minded. And JF Lazar says, massive hot take here, I think it's WAG's best movie. So there we go. A lot of love.
Nice
for this
nice movie. From all your great followers. That's wonderful.
So yeah, so make sure that you're following on Twitter, because I do try to put that out if I can think of it before doing one of these animation episodes. I always love to hear that feedback. And yeah, so check that out. And Stanford, where can people find you?
All right. Well, I'm on Threads now. So on Threads, I'm at Stanford Clark. I'm still going to keep my Twitter account open, but I'm probably quitting Twitter. And then I have a blog, a movie podcast, which can be accessed from my website, moviespastandpresent.com.
Very good. And I'll have a link to the playlist. You can listen to all of our animation episodes. I always love doing these. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews everywhere, including Threads. It's like, I can't believe I'm giving another social media site to Meta because I hate Meta so much.
I have so many issues with Meta, but I have so many issues with Twitter and Elon Musk. So, what are you going to do?
But anyway, I'm all over Rachel's Reviews, so check that out. And also make sure to check out the Hallmarkies podcast. We did a really fun episode with our friend Matt Brunette, Animat, over at Hallmarkies, where we talked about love stories and animated films, and it did very well, and was a lot of fun. So people, my animation friends, should check that out. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have Patreon group, which is a ton of fun and the best way that you can support everything we're doing. And then also have the merch store. You can hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So take a look at that. That helps a lot. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.